Darcy, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Last meeting I had an issue, so I'm just making sure I'm up and running today. Thanks.
No, you're in great shape.
Thanks. progress.
Well, welcome everyone to October 11th regular city council meeting. Mayor Mays is away for this evening. Therefore, as president of the council, I'll be standing in for Mayor Mays this evening. Roll call by our city clerk, please.
Counselor McLaughlin, did you call the meeting to order?
I would like to call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Counselor Richardson,
Present.
Counselor Randall,
Present.
Counselor Long,
Present.
Counselor Runyon is having some issues logging in, but he should be here shortly. And Counselor McLaughlin.
Present. All right. Since Counselor Runyon is having difficulties logging in, Counselor Richardson, would you please lead us in the pledge tonight?
Yes, you bet. Everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jim, roll call. Okay, next is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move approval of the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll
I
second that.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Long, aye.
Aye.
Approve. All right. Actually, I think we're moving into recognitions tonight and proclamations, and we have a certificate of recognition for Deputy Talley. And I am going to be very privileged and honored to read this. On the afternoon of July 6, 2021, Norcor Corrections Deputy Alicia Talley was fishing with her daughter near the Columbia River when she heard someone's cries for help. Talley immediately located a man calling for help for his girlfriend and her young son, both of which had been swept away by the strong currents out of the Columbia River. With no regard for her own personal safety, herself recovering from a major surgery, she dove into the river, fighting the strong currents and exhaustion for what seemed like an eternity. She was finally able to reach the young boy and bring him to safely back to shore. On behalf of the City Council and the citizens of the Dalles, please accept our gratitude for your selfless actions on July 6th, 2021. And it's signed Richard A. Mays. Deputy Talley, would you like to say anything at this time?
I would just like to say thank you.
Okay, and anyone with you, I see you have a host of people.
Sheriff, Jail Commander, Lieutenant Ordor.
Well, it isn't. Anyone else would like to speak?
Yeah, this is Sheriff Lowry. I'm very honored to have the quality of deputies like we do and Deputy Talley. And I appreciate that City of Vidal's recognizing the good work that Deputy Talley has done. And the City of Vidal's gave her this really beautiful coin and a really nice letter. And thank you for reaching out and honoring her this way. It truly means a lot to us out here at Northport.
Well, heroism should never go unrecognized, and I am privileged, Deputy Talley, to present you tonight with a certificate of recognition. And I don't know how we'll get it to you, but you'll be getting this in the mail. All right. Let's move on then. And I have a report tonight from the new, let's see, Director of Main Street. Please introduce yourself and give us an update.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Victoria Davis Lineberger, and I am the new Executive Director for the Main Street program. With that said, I thought it would be nice to take a moment and thank the Main Street Board of Directors for providing me with an opportunity to serve my community. So thank you. My professional background has primarily been spent in the aerospace and defense industry, serving as a production planning and control specialist as part of the program management team at In Situ. In addition, I also spent some time as an engineering support specialist for Bonneville Power Administration. And lastly, I hold a professional certification in production planning and inventory management from the Association for Supply Chain Management. My professional background is deeply rooted in analytics, planning, and solving problems with production and precision and decisiveness, all of which should serve us well for the challenges that lie ahead. As far as education is concerned, my undergraduate is a double major in marketing and business management, and I have a master's degree in business administration from Eastern Oregon University. In short, I am pleased to put my skill sets to work for our community. For status report, Main Street is currently being reorganized from the ground up. Our current objective is to implement a practical business plan that is driven by our new strategic business model. Our new model will focus heavily on identifying and addressing stakeholders' needs, solving unique problems that drive economic vitality, and implement measurabilities that enhance customer experiences. In short, it is an understatement to say that our 30-day goal is ambitious. With that said, we are currently building a coalition of talented individuals by accepting applications for new board members and volunteers that want to be part of something different. The bottom line is this: Main Street is going to bring it this year, and we will grow this organization into what its founders intended it to be. And I cannot wait to start moving the needle forward. And I hope you will join us too.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Davis?
Mr. Council President, this is
Yes.
Richardson. I do. Thank you, Ms. Davis, for being here tonight. Can you elaborate a little bit or expand a bit on your 30-day goal?
So for our 30-day goal, one of the things that I have done is I've went business to business to find out what the business owners are needing. Some of them are needing technical support, so Facebook for their businesses, marketing techniques, and we're helping them with that. And so we're just trying to figure out what they need right now. And then we're also going to be doing problem solving. So whatever economic things are happening, like if they need employees, we'll be sending out stuff on our Facebook, letting them know that we need which companies are looking for employees. And so there's one centralized location for people to go.
Other questions?
Thank you.
I have just one, and I see Lisa Farquharson. Nope. What's happening with the boats as they dock, and who? There was some question as who was going to be working with them. Can you give us a little bit more information on that?
Yes. So I went down and spoke with the people from the boats to find out what exactly they are wanting. And what they're wanting is they're wanting vendors down there to provide local local goods like our fruits, maybe cherries, jerky. They also want to go on fishing trips. They're wanting to, they don't want to go to Maryhill every single time, is what they've expressed to me. But they do like it, but not at 10 a.m. So we're trying to find out what they want so that we can better service them.
Okay. What about the management of who meets and greets and organizes? Is that still through the city? Is that Clerk Izetta doing that?
I have been going down there and meeting with people coming off the ships.
Okay. Any other questions?
Councilor McLaughlin, the
Yes.
city does handle the actual reservations of the dock. Main
And that-
Street does the shore agent part of it. So they're the people, they're the ones who work with the ships for onshore things, but the
Right.
city handles the actual reservations of the dock and coordinates that with 5 different ship
So
groups.
that remains unchanged from the way it was.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. 5 minutes per person will be allowed. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council considerations. Do we have anyone wanting to speak this evening? I have Mr. Wilcox is up. Go ahead, Jim.
Jim Wilcox, 416 West 7th Street, the Dalles. The issue I'm going to talk about, I brought to the attention of Mayor Rich and Councilman Tim a couple of weeks ago. I want to, first of all, have my sincere appreciation for our law enforcement for trying to work through this issue, and especially codes enforcement, Nikki Lesich, and animal control, Steve Baska. I have a situation here in the neighborhood where the neighboring house to me has 8 full-grown bloodhound dogs at 24/7 on an intermittent basis. Are they howling, barking, or whatever? I could almost deal with that. But last fall, when the stench, and I don't mean odor, stench got so bad that even I, who grew up on a farm, couldn't get by without a gag reflex, it was time to do something. So they've been working very hard on the problem. And what they have found is we do not have the proper city ordinances to really get after it. And I do know that Officer Baska has presented some things to Attorney Jonathan, and I appreciate that. I just want the rest of the council to know that this is a horrible problem in our city. Really needs to be a priority. It's a health issue. If you don't want, well, I'm already half nuts, but if you don't want to go completely nuts, please work as a council on these ordinances. I have 8 next to me, and I can tell you that by November 30th, there's going to be another 30 puppies over there. The owner talked to another neighbor, said, "Oh, I have 3 females in heat," and from our side of the house, we can see that the males are making sure that they're not in heat much longer. So we expect 30 more puppies within 60 days. Just a block from where we live, we were walking by again, another place that there's a horrible stench, 17 dogs in a yard. That's a 50 by 100 lot. And where these bloodhounds are constrained to is a 25 by 50 space. Not the dog's fault. They can't help it. They're big dogs. They deserve an acre each. But the situation is just totally out of control. So I'm just asking the council, please do the best you can to work with Jonathan and our law enforcement to give them the tools they need, and our municipal judge. His hands are tied. If he doesn't have anything to work with, he can only do so much. I wish for testimony I could bottle a stench and give you television, and you'd really understand why this is so important. But I will leave it at that. We've provided several videos and audios, tapes to Officer Baska, and those are all in record. And and he asked us to report. We've called the city dispatch. numerous times, almost to the point where we don't want to be pests, but it's all times of day and night. So we're trying to do our part. We're just hoping this can get done sooner rather than later. But I know you have other things that are right at the top of your list, and from working with Jonathan on the airport, I know he's dedicated to getting things done that are probably a higher priority, but I would hope this would be next in line. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that
Mr.
was under 5
Wilcox.
minutes.
Yes, it is. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes. Down here with Judy Judy Merrill.
Yeah, Judy Merrill.
Yep.
Thank you, council member Tim McLaughlin and the other council members. I'd like to just share briefly an experience I had downtown today. I enjoy walking downtown and as I do my errands, and I had 4 errands to do. And as I was doing my errands, I had to relieve myself to a bathroom. And I'm speaking not as a beautification member because I'm no longer on the committee. I'm speaking as a concerned citizen. And so I walked down. I remember that there was going to be a bathroom accessible that was going to be coming in from the side of the building at the vets building. And so I walked down there and I did see that 2 blue signs on poles that state public restroom, weekdays 9 to 5. One is on 2nd Street, which is great, and one is on Federal right before the building itself. The vet's office was very apparently closed with signage that you have to make an appointment to go inside the building. And there was no signage of accessibility to a restroom. There were 4 people sitting on the curb and also on the bench that apparently had what I assume is their personal belongings. And I asked one of them if they knew where a restroom was. And one person said, well, it's supposed to be in the building, but it's not there. And the office is closed. And the other person said, oh, there's an outhouse porta potty on the side. So I went over to the side of the building, and thank goodness there was a porta potty there, which was filthy. Jim Wilcox, you might appreciate the odors coming from there. And there was nothing to clean my hands with. So my question and concerns are regarding the signage. The signage doesn't appear, they don't appear to be relevant anymore if the vet building is closed and weekdays from 9 to 5. And perhaps there could be some signage stating that and signage directing people to go around the building to the porta potty. And I really appreciate there being a porta potty there. Thank you to the city. And at the same time, it'd be really nice to have something to clean your hands with, as I feel like this is the cleanliness and the lack of being able to clean my hands after going to the restroom for anybody is very important for health standards in our community. So I'm wondering what the plan is that I heard about many months ago regarding they were going to put, from what I understood, they were going to put a wall and open the wall to the outside so we would have access to use the toilet, the real toilet, and the real bathroom that's in the vet building. And I'm sure you, Julie, probably have an explanation, but I'm just really curious about that. And in ending, I noted a quotation or a writing on the agenda, and I really like it. It says, "The City of the Dalles, by working together, we will provide services that enhance the vitality of the Dalles." And as you all know, I have worked on having a public restroom accessible downtown for years. And to me, today was another example of there's some really missing links for the health and vitality and the sanitation of our town. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the input. City Manager Julie Kruger, would you?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Judy, thank you for that. I was not aware of the conditions of the portable down there, so I'll get on that first thing in the morning. I'm sorry for that. And we'll work on the signage. The actual converting the restroom to an outside entrance has been a bit delayed because we had to do some ADA engineering to access the restroom. So it's still being worked on, but it has slowed down. So I'll check in with my staff on that also in the morning just to see where they are. And in the meantime, we'll make sure to get that portable back up to a decent standard. I apologize for that.
Thank you, Julie. And I look forward to having that toilet available downtown and the proper signage. It's very misleading.
Absolutely. We also do have the Festival Park restrooms open during the day hours right now too. Just for everyone's knowledge. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. All right. Anyone else would like to speak on an issue that's not appearing on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I will go ahead and move on. City manager report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Tim McLaughlin. Very quickly, I know I've made a few comments to the City Council about our visioning process. So I wanted to just update you and let you know that Alice Cannon and I will be meeting with the team this week. I think it's Wednesday morning, and finish up our background with them. And then I believe the next step will be scheduling our first public meeting. We'll invite all of our partners. Oh, they have some interviews to do too with some of our partners. And then the first public meeting, which will be open to everyone. And then we'll particularly, of course, invite the department heads, our partners, and the city councilors to attend that meeting. And that will kick us off. And then there will be a lot of work over the winter. And our hope and expectation is that by spring, we'll complete that process for the community. Also, just to let you know, I didn't send out a written update last week, so I'm telling you all these things tonight, but I'll try to hurry a bit. The police department, Police Chief Worthy had applied for a grant for our accreditation program of the police department, and he was successful. Good job, Tom. Grant for $74,750, which will pretty much pay for the entire process. So we'll have a project manager to work with us. And if you need any additional details, I'm sure the chief can provide those for you. And then one other thing, our finance director, Angie Wilson, has been working with MCAC. There's some additional state funding. And so the city will partner with them to provide additional low-income water and sewer assistance through the winter. That pretty much covers my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to councilors' report. I have Richardson, Long, Randall, and Runyon up. Councilor Richardson, would you start with your report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem McLaughlin. Briefly, my report is that I've had meetings with staff and numerous conversations, email and phone conversations, in person to person with constituents about the two pending potential Google agreements. And I've attempted to reply to anyone who writes emails with comments or questions about that. And not that I necessarily have all the answers, but I do try to make sure that neighbors who take the time to write get a response. And that's mostly what I've been up to with regard to city matters, is Google conversations in the last couple of weeks. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilor Long.
Thanks, Councilor McLaughlin. So primarily in the last couple of weeks, I have been meeting with constituents on various topics. Obviously, the Google issue is the priority for a lot of people. I also had some people reach out to me regarding some traffic safety concerns, and I helped them get connected with the Traffic Safety Committee and make sure that we get the form filed appropriately. So since I'm the city representative, if anyone of the public has trouble finding that, they can also call me or call staff for help. And I met with several neighbors who had some privacy concerns caused by some new construction in their area. And I'm hoping to work with our planning department And I know that the other counselors are aware of that because we all got a group email on that. I do have one question as a counselor. So last year I put together the winter warming shelter and we handed that over to MCAC. And I have been hearing that they are not going to be providing winter warming services this year because those shelters are being used for transitional housing. And so my question is that correct, or is someone spreading misinformation? And if it is correct and there is no winter shelter down there anymore, what are we doing for people who need to get out of the extreme elements this year?
Who is that addressed to? That question.
I don't know who that should be addressed to. I guess maybe the city manager.
To my knowledge, that area has remained a shelter since its inception last year. What I understood from my last conversation with the mayor last week was that in addition to that, they're looking for a warming space that would be similar to what St. Vincent de Paul provided a couple of years back. And that, I believe, is still being worked out. I don't believe they have a location for that piece yet. So that would be in addition to the pallet homes out of the right-of-way site.
Yeah, so that is my concern because that model has problems. Obviously, I did a lot of research on that, and we also had trouble in town finding something to make that work. And people from St. Vincent de Paul Warming Shelter have included me on emails saying that they have a concern that they don't have adequate staffing for something like that. And I just know from the last time I tried to pull this together, we're way too close to when it's getting cold. And so I just want to make sure, since we handed that off, I still think we have an obligation as a city to make sure that people are safe in our community.
Yeah, and I understand that all 36 spaces in the shelters are currently full. That was the last I heard. So probably when the mayor gets back later this week, we can check in with him again, because I know there was a meeting last week, but I didn't get a follow-up from him on what happened at that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilor Randall.
Thank you, Councilor McLaughlin. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. And Councilor Runyon.
Just a couple of things. One, I met with the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee just before this meeting, of which I'm president, and we approved a light that will go on the memorials up at Kelly Viewpoint in the front. There happens to be a light that was put on the back of the largest memorial when it was built, and for some reason there was never one put on the front. The street lights are too far away. So we've gotten a bid, and now I'll be talking to Parks and Rec and so forth and figure out how to go forward from here. But we have approved an expenditure through the Veterans Committee to make that light happen. Also, I wanted to mention that Point Man Ministries, under the direction of Mike Knopf, donated 2 new flags for Kelly Viewpoint. So if you have been driving by and they weren't in very good repair, there's now a brand new high wind velocity 5x8 American flag, and I believe the POW flag is about 4x6, I think. So really, I want to give a big shout out to Point Man Ministries for doing that. Also met with LIPSIC, Local Public Safety Coordinating Committee I've been on with the city and also for years with the county. And it kind of ties in with some of the things we've already talked about here tonight. This was regarding Measure 110 that passed in November of 2020, Health, Justice, and Recovery Alliance. And that new law will utilize and expand existing community-based providers as addiction recovery centers to provide services throughout the state to immediately assess the needs of people who use drugs and link them to treatment care and services. So there's like $302 million set out there. Every county in the state is going to be involved in this and have a behavioral health resource network must be available in each county. So we're moving forward on things regarding that. And just a lot of funds are going to start being available for health and welfare, and reducing what the law does, it reduces criminal possession offenses from misdemeanors to civil infractions. So instead of arrests and criminal records, people are now found to be possessing small amounts of drugs will be cited and fined $100. But should they complete the counseling that'll be available and whatnot, the fine is waived. So changes in the law put to us by the legislature that are moving forward in the city of the Dalles and Wasco County. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Counselor. All right. I have been working with stakeholders surrounding the issue of Navigation Center with Kenny LaPointe. It's, again, very difficult finding property in the Dalles to site something like this, and we continue our quest to find something. For the past two community cleanup days through the Lions Club and through city cleanup with Mayor May's beautification, I've been busy collecting shopping carts from around the community that have been abandoned. I'd like to ask the council to address this growing concern in the near future. It's just something that's, it's a safety issue, it's a cleanliness, it's all kinds of things that are just happening that we just need to address, I believe. I do have an airport commission meeting this Friday at 7 a.m. And that concludes my report. All right, anything else? Let me go on to our consent agenda. All right. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. And we only have one item tonight, and that's the approval of September 27th, 2021 regular city council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve those and adopt or accept the consent agenda.
And a second?
I'll second it.
that.
Okay, let's say, Darcy Long, let's have her seconded. And is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye or designate by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. All right, on to action items. Tonight we have action item 10A, approval of task order number 14 to allow the airport to contract the engineer and subcontractors for the South Apron Rehabilitation and Taxiway Improvement Project, AIP project number 3-41-0059-018-02021. All right, Manager Jeff Renard, would you give us an update on this, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Temp and City Council. I'm glad you had to read that number and not I. That is our current grant for the 2023 South Apron Improvement, and the task force, the grant has already been approved, and this is for the phase 1 design of the project, and it is basically an approval for the hiring the engineer, Precision Approach Engineering, and the subcontractors to design the South Apron rehabilitation. There's no budget implications to this project due to the fact that through COVID, the FAA has 100% funded all of the projects, and there's no match required from the city. And I believe that's all I apologize. It's my first time, so I'm learning this process.
Doing fine, and I like hearing reports like that with 100% funding. That's great. Any questions for Manager Renard?
Who applied for the grant, Jeff?
This grant was applied for originally with Dave and Aaron Rasmussen when they were the airport managers.
Well, that's good news. My other question is, I see a staff recommendation to asking us to approve task order 14. I'm wondering if it would give you any heartburn if we were to include wording to the effect of not to exceed the $265,000.
I don't believe that would give me any heartburn.
Thank you.
With the completion of this apron rehabilitation, what improvements will it make and new capabilities will it allow the airport to have?
Not necessarily any new capabilities. It is the pavement, and I apologize, I have to read that portion of it. There was a pavement survey pavement evaluation and maintenance management program done in 2017 that basically they come through and they evaluate all the paved surfaces across the airport and they rate them. And when they reach a certain rating, then they are eligible for rehabilitation. This one was deemed to be, it needed to be done in 2017 and has finally reached a cycle where we received the grant to get this done. So it'll take that whole section looking from the FBO towards the runway, everything to the east, where the transient tie down airplanes are at, and resurface all of that, and also afford us 5 new taxiways for future T hangars.
Oh, that's great. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to action item 10B.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you need a motion.
Oh, we do. Okay, let's go back and pick up a motion. Oh,
Up.
Councilor
I have a
Ryan, you have
question
one more
first.
question.
Yeah, because Mr. Renard, what was the amount you said that the government was providing for this project?
The whole grant, I believe, I don't have that number on my staff report here, that I believe it's a $1.7 million grant for the design and construction phase, but I would have to clarify that.
Okay, and Councilor Richardson was asking to add on not to exceed, and I'm wondering about that as I look on page A9, 37 of 49, under additional exclusions and so forth. There's a piece in there, and I'm certainly not a lawyer, but it says, should the project be found to require AGIS services or deliverables, this is just one example, a revised scope and fee additions will be proposed. But again, it's under this government grant and their ability to provide funds. So I'm not sure where else a sentence like that appears, but I'd hate to put a limit if we're getting money from the feds on the airport here. So.
Councilor Runyon, may I direct you to the task order number 14 on the second page? They have put the $265,000 amount in this particular task order, and that's all we're asking for approval tonight.
Okay.
Just that piece.
Just that one piece. Okay,
Yes.
Very good, Dennis. Want to make some clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to, yes.
Mr. McLaughlin, can I make a correction too? Your airport board meeting is also Thursday morning at 7 due to the fact that the bridge is closed on Fridays.
Oh, are we not Zooming it?
Yes, we'll be Zooming it, but I believe there's some that are going to be there but it's a Thursday morning meeting this month.
I got it. Thanks. Thanks for correcting that.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to back up the bus and we're going to get a motion to approve the task order number 14. Does anyone want to make that motion?
If I can find it.
Would you like me to read the staff recommended motion?
That'd be great.
Yes.
The recommendation is to move to approve task order number 14, contracting Precision Approach Engineering for the scope of work in the task order not to exceed $265,000.
All right, we have a motion that's on the floor. Any other?
That's not, no one moved that. I was just reading it to you.
Let's get a move it.
I'll make the motion to what was just read.
All right, Counselor Runyon made the motion. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Good. And do we have any further discussion on this item? Now hearing none, I'll move to.
Yes, one
Yes,
question.
yes.
I think the number is actually 275 on page 39 of 49. Maximum obligation of the United States under this offer is 275.
Jackie,
So-
correct us, one of us, I'm reading off the actual task order that we're being asked to sign, that Precision Approach has already signed, and it's $265,000.
So be it.
Do we need to make it different? Jeff? You're muted.
I apologize. I don't have that in front of me at the moment. So I would have to.
Well, the task order is the next page after the staff report in your agenda packet. It would be page 27 and 28 of the packet.
Yes.
That's the task order we're asking to have approved tonight. And that's where I came up with the $265,000.
Thank you. I'm good with that. It's already been signed.
All right, so everyone is in agreement. That's the amount for this motion. Everyone shaking their head. Good. All right, so we've had a discussion. Is there any more discussion on this item? All right, we have a second. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 McLaughlin's in favor. All right, that is passes. Now let's go on to action item 10B. This is, yes?
I know you have another commitment. I think you can be excused for the rest of the meeting, but thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Oh. I thought you were telling me I could leave, Julie. All right, we're moving on. Resolution number 21-020, authorizing transfer of budgeted amounts between categories of various funds of the City of the Dalles adopted budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Our Finance Director, Angie, this is apparently you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Tim McLaughlin and City Council. You have in front of you my agenda staff report 2020. The resolution 2020 is in two parts. The first part is a transfer of $9,776 from the general fund contingency to cover three items. The first one is $1,157 for the IT technology department for the personnel services. There was some personnel services that was inadvertently left out of the budget, and we'd like to make that transfer to make that personnel services whole. And then $4,919 from the contingency to the city clerk department for additional personnel services to be able to help with projects within the city clerk department, and allowing 120 hours that would be put onto the part-time line item. And then also we have $3,700 to compensate the finance department. The ability to identify and track short-term rentals has proved to be problematic in hosting platforms such as Airbnb and VRBO. And it's really hard to monitor these programs. And we've come up with a program that would help identify short-term rentals. The service will, I believe, will increase our revenue, which will offset the yearly fee and provide additional revenue to be able to put back into our community. And then the second part of resolution 2120 is a transfer from the airport contingency line item over to the equipment repairs and maintenance. The airport had a tractor that they had to do some major unexpected repairs this last year. So that has additionally taken up the money for the equipment repairs and maintenance program. So this would just be adding some additional funds back into that program or that line item to be able to help with future maintenance. Does anybody have any questions?
Anyone? Okay, it seems like housekeeping. Do we have anyone with no questions? So let's take a motion, please.
This is Rod.
Yes.
I'll make a move to adopt resolution number 21020, authorizing transfers of budgeted amounts between categories of various funds of the City of the Dalles budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
Good. We've been, Councillor Runyon made the motion and Councillor Long seconded. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it unanimously passes. We'll move on.
Thank you.
Section item 10C, resolution number 21-021. A resolution enforcing the Dalles Municipal Code Chapter 2.24, public rights of way and relating to encroachment removal on East 9th Street. Do we have a report? Oh, Jonathan, our attorney, Jonathan Kara.
Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin.
You bet.
Tonight, I'll be recommending Council adopts resolution number 2121. It's a mechanism that will allow the city to enforce its right-of-way authority. And so very briefly, I'd like to give you all an idea of what our right-of-way authority is and how we can implement it. It appears, my earliest records that I've seen indicate that the council authorized General Ordinance 1217 in 1997. But I have to suspect that the city had right-of-way authority before that as well. That could be something that Dave Anderson could easily answer, but I have the floor tonight. And so I'm happy to explain a little bit about what that means. And so just until a few years ago, it appeared the city was using a general ordinance numbering system. And we codified all of our old general ordinances and others into what's known as the Dalles Municipal Code. And specifically, certain section in Title II, which deals with public improvements, elaborates on the way that the city can enforce its right-of-way, and namely, most importantly, gives the city complete authority and jurisdiction over regulating its right-of-way within city limits. It is extremely powerful, and it gives the city ultimate deference, frankly, on what gets used in the right-of-way, which we hold in public trust for the people of the state of Oregon to use in the way that we see best promotes the public health, safety, and welfare. Very commonly, what you'll see for right-of-ways, well, they happen to be on streets. They don't necessarily need to be, but generally, when they are located on streets, we'll try to use them as much as we can for improving transportation for the public. Despite how powerful Title II is with regards to the city's jurisdiction, one thing that it does not have, and one thing that has caused me a little bit of heartache, is a way to enforce it, because it gives us all this authority, but when somebody violates it, we're left holding our hands because there's no authority in there necessarily on the ways that the city can go about removing encroachments that currently exist. Now, if we see an encroachment that is being constructed or developed or in any sort of way, in any sort of fashion being worked on, the city has a mechanism through Title II to issue a stop work order and a fine that would be assessed against whoever's causing the encroachment. But in the case where the city's conducting, a routine inspection and we notice encroachments upon the right-of-way, and they can be anything from fences where they shouldn't be, to people leaving, pre-built structures, anything that's in the right of way is considered an encroachment unless it's authorized. In those cases where it's not being built, the city's code is silent on this issue. And so generally, as a chartered city, subject to home rule, when our city code is silent on an issue, the default is going to state law. And in the case of right-of-way enforcement of, in the case of the way that the city may enforce its right-of-way, that issue is also silent in state law, but it's been fleshed out significantly in Oregon case law. And so one of the ways that Oregon courts have treated encroachments historically has been to deem them as nuisances. And so nuisances are, they're anything that this council says they are. That's what state law says. And our nuisance code is handled exclusively by, or enforcement of it is handled exclusively by our codes enforcement officer, Nikki Lesich. And she does it all day, every day. That's sort of Nikki's favorite thing, is going about and enforcing Title V. And so it is a particularly robust set of rules that deal with ways in which the city can enforce its authority. And so all of that brings us to this resolution, which deals with a portion of public right-of-way on East 9th Street. Specifically, it is the 890 feet east of Quinton Street, heading down towards the rest of the undeveloped East 9th. And so the reason that this matter is being brought today to this council is because the Public Works Department has begun plans on improving East 9th Street, and we need a way to enforce our right-of-way, to have the structures or encroachments or occupancies, whatever the case may be, removed lawfully and consistent with our charter and with our code. And so one way that we can do that is by treating existing nuisances after some deadline as existing encroachments after some deadline as nuisances, subject to abatement as an unenumerated nuisance, as explained in Title V and in my staff report. The gist of it is that anything that the city has that we deem injurious or detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare, we can consider to be a nuisance. And once it's considered to be a nuisance, then Title V's mechanism, the process through which enforcement occurs, nuisance abatement, can be applied. But absent that, the city is left in a really tough spot, because back when this code was adopted back in '97, no one contemplated how do we enforce this. Since I've been city attorney for the past 14 months, I haven't figured out a way to use our existing code to enforce our right-of-way. And so I wanted to bring this all to you tonight to help out our Public Works Department as it goes on its journey of improving East 9th Street, but also to let you know that upon adoption of this resolution, I fully intend to bring back a general ordinance sometime in the next year to deem all encroachments upon the public right-of-way throughout all of the city's rights-of-way to be unenumerated nuisances subject to abatement at the discretion of the codes enforcement officer and city attorney. And so that will give us the authority that we need throughout the city. But in the meantime, my recommendation is that the council adopts this resolution specifically for East 9th Street. And I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a question. Shall I go ahead?
Mayor Pro Tem, you're muted if you're speaking.
You're still muted.
Let me fix
there you
that
go.
quickly.
Shall I go ahead?
Yes, you may go ahead, Councilor Runyon.
So in the meantime, sounds like my question was right in the middle of the last paragraph you came up with there, that you said sometime next year having a new ordinance put together. So that was part of my question, because this specifically is to one instance, one street, and one location. And so if tomorrow we get another one, we have to do this whole process each time, correct?
Yeah,
ordinance.
until I can coordinate with Dave and the rest of the Public Works Department on what makes the most sense. Because, you know, in this instance, as you just said, Councilor Runyon, in this instance, it's something that we know that we're about to embark on this journey of improvement for East 9th Street. That's what cities do, right? We build streets. And so in this case, we happen to know that there are some encroachments there. And so as a way to future-proof it for this particular project, that's the intent of this resolution. But I wanted to sort of lay the foundation for the rest of, to everybody here, frankly. That this is the mechanism through which the city can enforce its right of way throughout the city. But the only reason I'm not bringing this to you as a general ordinance tonight, again, is to support the Public Works Department, which is, I know will be improving East 9th Street, but also an ordinance of such broad applicability. I'd like to do some additional research to ensure that we're not going to be depriving anybody of any rights that we may have overlooked. But in the case of this street, it makes perfect sense and it's completely valid. And so I do anticipate bringing it to you. I wish I can give you a better time frame, frankly, but within the next year.
All right.
Just a historical note, there used to be a little mini store, a little house, family mini market, I guess you'd call it, right at that location where that street's to go through many years ago. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion to accept this proposal?
Councilor McLaughlin, I move to adopt resolution number 21-021, a resolution enforcing the Dallas Municipal Code, Chapter 2.24, public rights of way and relating to encroachment removal on East 9th Street.
We have a
I
motion
will
to,
second that motion.
Councilor Richardson seconds it, and Randall made the motion. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by raising a hand or saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Is there anything else that stands before this council tonight?
I have a question.
Yes.
To backtrack, and I'd like our attorney to chime in. Councilor Richardson, rightly so, brought up the difference between the resolution on the airport question, that it showed 265 on the signed document voted on by the other entity, and then on page 2, 39 of 49 conditions, it shows 275. I know it's a process to go back through and have both entities redo their motion with the same number. Is there any problem in our attorney's mind of 265,000 versus 275 as stated in the conditions?
Sure. Councilor McLaughlin, may I respond to Councilor Runyon?
Of course you may.
Thank you very much. So, no, I completely appreciate why this is being brought up. So my understanding is the motion before you, well, with resolution 21020, I'm sorry, approval of task order number 14. That's an agreement that was entered into and signed with Precision Approach Engineering in the amount of $265,000. Now, that was their proposal and bid, right, that they were awarded underneath the terms of this grant. And so the total money that was allocated by the federal government, the FAA, to the city.
Well, that's a direct amount then, so it wouldn't have any effect upon the obligation, correct?
No, not upon the obligation. And so the FAA says, okay, airport, you are awarded up to $275,000 for completion of this project. And it appears that Precision Approach put in a proposal and we agreed to, well, they agreed to at least, and so did we just a few minutes ago, to do it for $265,000. And so we're saving the federal government $10,000 that it appears that we're not using. That's all the differences.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify that on the record because it just, at the time, you know, I hadn't noticed that either until Councilor Richardson brought that up, and it seemed like a big error if that's what it was. But now that I've had a little more time to look at it and your explanation, I totally understand. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right. Now, I'll put it out that, is there any other topics or anything unfinished business? If hearing none, at 6:29, I adjourn this meeting.
Julie, can I call you after the meeting?